Assalamualaikum. Hello guys, good night. My name is Viollani Pratiwi. In this video, I want to tell you about Victorian period literature. Let's get to the list. This period is called the Victorian period because it coincided with the reign of Queen Victoria, 1837–1901. It was a period of peace during which important social changes, as well as rapid economic and technological development took place. These changes constitute one aspect of the so-called Industrial Revolution. What is meant by the Industrial Revolution is a radical change caused by new discoveries in the technology and transportation industry. This revolution contains both positive and negative aspects. One of the most serious problems is the growing disparity between rich and poor. So many ideas are put forward to solve this problem. Meanwhile, the positive side of the revolution can be seen from the history of prosperity and natural science, which has discovered new miracles, such as electric power, which can be used for purposes. What was horrendous was the research result of Charles Darwin, 1809–1882, which was published under the title, The Origin of Species, 1859. Who put forward the theory of biological evolution. Darwin's theory changed many views about everything in the world, and also caused a lot of contradiction. In addition, advances in the scientific and educational fields are increasingly advanced and expanding. This indicates the progress of democracy and economy, which requires a greater number of educated personnel. A common feature of Victorian period literature was prose. Many fine poems were produced during this period. The more widespread the general education, the greater the number of readers of periodicals such as newspapers and magazines which contain news, ideas, reviews, etc. The more advanced science, the more scientific books about nature and aspects of human life will increase. Another important feature is that the literacy of prose and poetry is served as an aim to improve the morale of society. So the novel does not only describe life as it is, but also presents how life should be. Much prose was produced in the Victorian period. Apart from that, prose is said to be precisely which is devoted to a goal. Hence, novel works produced in the Victorian period were generally called problem novels. And because the aim is to improve the morale of society, this novel is called didactic novels. Famous novelists during this period were first Charles Dickens, 1812–1870. Dickens is the most popular and internationally recognized British novelist. His childhood lived in an atmosphere of poverty and loneliness. Dickens started his career as a journalist, and all of his novels were published periodically, especially in two magazines which he edited himself, The Household Words, and All the Year Round. His first book was Sketches by Boz, 1836, which was a collection of short stories and descriptive writing in the form of essays. Second to William Makepeace Thackeray, 1816–1833, he received his Charterhouse and Cambridge University education, which in 1930 he left college. Then in 1842, he was invited to become the staff of Punk magazine, which he intended as a medium to train his skills in the field of humor. His very interesting novel is The Book of Snobs. The third George Eliot, 1819–1880, she was the daughter of a Tory land broker. In particular, he applied realism to his works of fiction and tried to remove picturesque and burlesque from his work. His most famous work is Adam Bede, 1859. And later Elizabeth Gaskell, 1865–1910, was a novelist and geographer. He wrote a more violent and courageous book about the poor in northern England, but ended with a happy ending. Actually, there is still a lot of prose produced in the Victorian era, but I will describe only 4 in this video. The characteristics of poetry in the Victorian era are generally marked by the ebb and flow of the lyricism and spontaneity found in the Romanticism era, and lead to the establishment of standards in both form and content, thus giving rise to Puritanism known as Victorianism. Social, scientific and religious issues are the subject of poetry. All elements of expression are considered carefully so as to obtain advances in poetry writing techniques. Famous poetry figures during this period were Alfred Lord Tennyson, 1809–1892. Tennyson was one of the most famous poets of the era. He is the fourth of 12 children. One of Tennyson's lyrics was The Princess in 1847, which was written in blank verse, and touched on a hot issue at the time, namely the emancipation of women. Robert Browning, 1812–1889, he was a poet, son of a clerk at the Bank of England. He married a poet named Elizabeth Barrett Browning in 1861. His most famous work is Pollen, 1833. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, 1806–1861, she had a reputation as a Victorian poet long before she met Robert Browning. His famous works are The Seraphim and Other Poem, 1838, and Poems, 1844. The dramatic literature of the Victorian period underwent little change due to a lack of appreciation from Victorian society. In the 1860s, there were slight changes, as Queen Victoria was not that interested in the art branch. Popular drama writers at the time were Thomas William Robertson, 1829–1871. He is known as a reformer of drama relevant to contemporary social life when at that time the drama received little attention. His most famous work is Caste, 1867. Oscar Wilde, 1854–1900, was a playwright, poet and novelist. Robertson's work cannot be compared to Oscar Wilde's by the popularity of Oscar's comedy, which is still going on to this day. Comedy is full of funny stories. Her most famous work is Lady Windermere's Fan, 1892. I think that is it. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum.